Before we do any presentation at Royal Roads, we always acknowledge that we live, learn, and work on the traditional lands of the Kosepsum and the Kwangin ancestors and families. Learning has been happening on the land of Royal Roads for countless generations, and we're so grateful to be on this land. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge that we are in like month 7, month 8 of this global health crisis. We have all been experiencing this in unique ways. We recognize that we're in a time of great uncertainty, and at Royal Roads, we are really about finding a way forward, about being innovative and creative and creating a better world for all of us. So just know as we explore this program, that's what we're here to support you to do, because I know everyone is kind of sharing a brain on these thoughts right now. And we are here to dive into the Bachelor of Commerce in Entrepreneurial Management. So I am joined by Ross Porter, who is the program head. Welcome, Ross.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
And we are also lucky enough to have a recent grad, Sherry Hilliard, on the call with us today. She will be speaking a bit about her experience. So thank you, Sherry, for being here with us.
Great, happy to be here.
And we also have Tracy Summers. You can see her maybe on the screen down there. She is an enrollment advisor. So you maybe already have talked to her. Maybe you'll talk to her after the webinar, but she's here to provide support as you make your decision of what program you're going to take. So if you do have questions after the webinar, she'll be a great person to reach out to. And I'm Alana McConaughey. I'm an education advisor. I am also a graduate and a current student of Royal Roads. So I'm all about everything Royal Roads.
You're well acquainted.
I am. I know the scene well, so I will be talking a little bit about that. And I also have my lovely colleague, Selena Kunar, on the call, who's just on the back end if any technology issues come up. So with that, I'll let you know what we'll be up to. So if you feel comfortable just typing into the chat box where you're watching in from, maybe why you're interested in this program now, anything you want to share with us, we'd love to hear from you. And as you type away, I'll let you know what we'll be up to. So I'm going to take you through a really brief overview of the Royal Roads experience, and then Ross is going to take you through the BCom specific information. Then we're going to speak with Sherry, and then we are going to go through admission requirements and the application process. I encourage you to ask questions as we go along. We will be watching out for them in the chat box. Tracy might be answering them, I might be answering them, Ross might keep an eye on them, but we will at the end of the presentation also have a Q&A, so we'll again take down the PowerPoint and have a discussion in that format as well. So you might already be familiar with Royal Roads, but I'll give you a bit of an overview before we get started. Okay, and I will also introduce who's here with us. We have Tiffany here, who is from Calgary. She's in career advancement. Welcome, Tiffany. And then Selena, of course, from Victoria, BC, and she's on the recruitment team with me. And then Sherry, who is in Whistler. Thank you, Sherry. Okay, awesome. So Royal Roads was created 25 years ago. We were created with a bit of a different focus than other public institutions. We were created to offer programs that work for working professionals, so enabling you to get skills that you can take into your career immediately, and also enabling you to keep working while you're doing your degree, which is why this program is offered in a blended format, and many of our programs are. One of the things that we feel really proud about right now is the fact that we have been offering online education since we began, so for 25 years now. So that is something we've really been perfecting, building online communities for that length of time. And a few things that we do differently. So we run on a first name basis. So I always like to mention that I'm on degree number 2, still have no idea what my student number is. That in itself is so unique. It really speaks to the fact that people get to know who you are. They get to know what your strengths are. You are joining a learning community. You're helping build the knowledge base. And that requires everyone to be on a first name basis. And then in terms of our cohort model, so enabling you to learn with a broad range of individuals who are coming from various backgrounds. There's a lot of intentionality around this, again, feeding into that community learning. So you will be moving through the program. I think with the BCom, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ross, it's about 40 people maxed out within any cohort, is that correct?
Yeah, roughly. We have a larger cohort that just joined us, but typically it's between 20 and 30, but we've just seen an uptick in numbers. But again, much smaller than you would typically see in an undergraduate business program.
Absolutely. And you really get an opportunity to work with people, to do projects together, to get to know each other. So it's about gaining your skills in teamwork and collaboration, which of course is one of the non-technical skills that's required to be successful. But it's also about building relationships and opportunities that can come out of those relationships. And of course, there's friendships that are really lovely, but also professional opportunities that can emerge from that. And there's so many examples of that across all of the programs. And life is also an education. So this is where we recognize that people learn in all sorts of different ways. And the best example of how much we recognize that is our flexible admissions model. So our flexible admissions is intended for people who have potentially significant work experience and some education. So if you were to, for instance, come through this program through the standard admissions, we'll be going through this in a little bit more detail, but you would have a 2-year diploma and then you would come see us for year 3 and 4. With the flexible admissions, perhaps you did a certificate or you did a 1-year diploma, but then you've been working for a number of years. We'll actually assess you holistically and look at all of your work experience, your volunteer experience, your non-credential education, and make an assessment on whether or not we think you're going to be successful in the program, and you may be invited in based on that. And then our real world classroom. So there's always an emphasis on getting skills that you can take into your career right away. All of our faculty actually have significant background working in industry or are currently working in industry. So they're very up to date with what's actually going on and ensuring that all your readings and your assignments are going to be relevant. And any opportunity that people have to actually make an impact with an assignment, we're always really excited about supporting that. And hence we are an Ashoka U Changemaker campus. So this is a designation we're very, very proud of. I believe it's something like 55 institutions across North America have this. And what it means is that we are committed to bringing our learning outside of the institution. So as I mentioned, we're always looking for that way that students can have impact with their projects. This is that designation that says that we are committed to that. So I invite you to look that up if you're curious to find out more. And just to get a sense of the physical campus, so I haven't been there for a while. Some people are back on campus, but it is there, it does exist. So not only are we a public university, we're also a National Historic Site as well, so hence the castle. So it's maybe not as old as you think it would be. It was built in the early 1900s. And then the Dunsmuir family who built it, they were there for a few decades, and then the federal government took over the land. It became a military college and was a military college until 95 when Royal Roads came into being. We are also on 555 acres of old growth, so lots of forest trails to explore. And from the back of the castle, you can actually see the Esquimalt Lagoon, which then feeds into the ocean. So pretty much beautiful everywhere you look. And of course, as I mentioned, we have been delivering online learning for 25 years. And in terms of the online learning, so with this program, it's blended learning. We're also be going into a little bit more detail about this, but with the online learning, it's basically the blended model. You'll have most of your program will be delivered online. We use Moodle, which is a super interactive site, really easy to navigate. And then everything that you would imagine to be available to you is of course available in terms of supports, counseling, all of the things you would get if you were actually on campus are available online. And as Ross has mentioned here, it's actively facilitated. So you're not just off on your own having an experience of online learning. You're constantly interacting with not only your instructor, but within your classmates. And the on-campus, in brackets, virtual residencies. So of course, we've had an easier time than other institutions. We've had to pivot quickly with offering our residencies in an online environment. So we are currently doing the residencies online, but we'll see how things develop for the upcoming residency. We might be on campus again, but this is really where you get a chance to connect with your cohort, either face-to-face or online, and it's an immersive experience. So this is where, you know, when you're doing the online studies through most of your program, you're going to be balancing work and family life and all the commitments that you have. But this is really an opportunity where the education gets to take the front seat and you really get to dive in deeply, and a wonderful addition to having that online learning. And from there, I'll hand it over to you, Ross.
My turn. Okay, thank you, Alana. And welcome again, everybody. Thanks for joining us and demonstrating interest in the BCom program. So I'm a core faculty member and I oversee the BCom program details for you. So you learn a bit about what makes this program different? And I like to say that it is a different type of BCom than what you would see or an equivalent undergraduate business education at another institution. We are degree completion focused, so we don't offer years 1 and 2, we offer years 3 and 4, and to Lana's point, that will be made up, years 1 and 2 will be the equivalent of either academic experience or your work we'll take into account as we assess each applicant. We offer a online and blended delivery model. So we only offer the BCom program in the online and blended delivery, and that's by design. So as opposed to a lot of university programs, the vast majority right now that have all shifted online out of circumstances, not by choice, but because of the circumstances driving that, we created this program by design in its online blended delivery. And so another piece that makes the program different is the diverse student population. You'll get an opportunity to interact and get to know Sherry. Again, what I would say an untraditional undergraduate business student because of the years of work and related experience that people like Sherry bring into the BCom. So we are diverse based on age, based on the backgrounds that people bring in, whether that be professional background or academic background, their work and life experience, and also their location, because we're not limited in terms of where we can draw students from. So currently in the various BCom cohorts, we have students right across the country and a few located internationally as well. The common goal that I find that draws people to the BCom is one of 3 things. It's ultimately about enhancing opportunities made available, enhancing one's influence, and ultimately enhancing one's impact in the world. And that's usually what draws people back to university, and specifically the BCom, is to increase opportunities, increase your influence, and increase your impact in your work world. A few other things that I think are worth highlighting that make this BCom different than many other business programs across the country. We try to strike a balance between kind of that academic and theoretical rigorousness that you would expect in a university program with practical relevance. So in each of our programs, in each of our courses, I should say, in the program, there's a heavy emphasis on applied and experiential learning. That's enabled in part because we engage industry experienced faculty. So every faculty member that you will be encountering in the BCom is either a working professional right now or has many years of applied experience in the field in which they are teaching. So they're not bringing it simply from an academic or theoretical perspective, but from a lived experience. And then again, that enables us to strike that balance between academic rigorousness and practical relevance. There is also a balance between individual and collaborative learning. Yes, you are part of a cohort learning model. So the people that you join the program with are the people that you will be with throughout the duration of your program. And while there is a strong emphasis on teamwork across most of the courses in the BCom, there is also an opportunity to be able to explore what your own individual interests are within the context of a given course. Our courses, I like to say, it's a fixed menu approach. So we don't have electives, so the students all take the same courses at the same time together. But again, you can craft some of your own individual pathways inside of a particular course that speak to your particular interests. The other thing I think it's really worth mentioning is that entrepreneur management is not a common term that people are necessarily familiar with. And what I want to mention about this is, yes, the program has got a strong entrepreneurial focus, but it includes, but it's much more than simply thinking about how to run a startup or a small business. And so what do I mean by entrepreneurial management? To me, it's more of an attitude and a behavioral orientation or disposition that we're trying to cultivate amongst learners. And so hopefully you see something of value in these type of attributes, either see yourself there or these are attributes you would like to cultivate because you think that it would be beneficial to enhance the opportunities available to you, your influence and your impact in the world. So entrepreneurialism or entrepreneurial management is really about being enterprising and resourceful. It's about having the capacity and capability and confidence to drive change and innovation, whether inside of an existing organization, which is where most of the students that come into the program from are in existing work contexts and may choose to stay in traditional employment, but want to be a value creator within that context. So ultimately it is about creating value, either inside of an organization or starting some sort of new venture. And the common glue there is about having the capacity and capability to turn ideas into action. That's what we mean by entrepreneurialism and entrepreneurial management. And we like to pride ourselves in saying we graduate problem solvers in a world searching for solutions. And I think that applies more now than ever. The world is hungry for problem solvers, people who can think differently. They problem solve more creatively rather than in a linear deductive reasoning way that a lot of business students do. And so they're able to bring more value to whatever work context they find themselves in. In terms of our delivery model, as I said, it's a blended model, but in this context right now, it's fully online, including our residency. So it's 2 years, roughly about 23 and a bit months. Well, I say it's part-time because the vast majority of learners are working full or close to full time while they're in the program. It is full on because what you're doing in 2 years, if you were doing part-time at another institution, would typically take you much longer than 2 years. So there is an accelerated kind of part-time delivery model. So we have online delivery and 3 residencies. The residencies currently are being offered in a virtual fashion. We just finished a residency last week and then another one the week before. So we're well accustomed to delivering a really immersive and engaging experience, even in its virtual format rather than face-to-face. For the most part in the program, you take 2 courses at a time, and I'm going to share a bit of a graphic in the next slide that will kind of show what this actually looks like. We say it's asynchronous delivery, which means that it's not live, means that you can access the material and engage in your learning based on your schedule. Most courses and instructors offer at least some live component in a given week, but you're not required to necessarily attend that live piece if it doesn't work for your schedule, but you just need to make sure you avail yourself of that session on your own time. This is not correspondence and it's not distance learning as a lot of people understand it. Every course is delivered and facilitated by a faculty member, a live human being who's with you throughout the weeks that you're in the course, facilitating a learning experience each and every week that you're in the course. Again, you're learning while you're working, and the advantage of that, as opposed to taking yourself out of the work context and just studying full time, is you get to apply your learning real time. So in any given week, I would argue there's something you're learning in one or both of your courses that you can find practical application to in your own work and life context, which then embeds the learning and increases your level of engagement in your learning because you see direct application. You see the value and get to experience the value, not waiting for many months or weeks into the future to actually apply. Overall, I refer to this program as structured flexibility. Again, it's designed to enable people to work and study at the same time, but it's structured in the sense that it's a cohort model, it's that fixed menu of courses delivered in a structured yet flexible way. So what does the 2 years look like? Well, this is a visual that captures year 1. You start the program by doing what we refer to as the Bridge to BCom, kind of an orientation to Royal Roads and to the BCom program for your first week. You're also completing a required module in there around academic integrity, but it's primarily getting to know one another, getting to know what to expect over your life within the program. And we're laying down some other foundational learning in that first week. And then you will spend the next 2 weeks online in your first course, your EM 300 course, which is the Foundation Business Skills, before you would actually start your physical or virtual Res 1, which is where you complete your first course and where your financial accounting course will start. You'll have a couple of sessions with your financial accounting instructor before you ultimately move online. So the first course is unique in the sense that it's only 4 weeks, but as you'll see on the rest of the slide, each of the distance learning semesters, terms, have 2 courses in them. Each course is 9 weeks, so think of 8 weeks of kind of facilitated learning, content delivery. You're engaging with one another and with your instructor and doing formative learning. And then the final week would be for an exam or a final assignment to complete that. And then there's typically a 1 week break, and then you start your next distance learning term. So in your first year, you will have completed 5 distance learning terms and a total of 11 courses, including your 300 course. In year 2, it starts in residency. In Res 2, you'll be completing your core entrepreneurship course for the first couple of days. Res 2 right now is 8 days. Res 1 is approximately 10 days, spread over 2 weeks. And then Res 3 is anywhere from 3 to 5 days, depending on the size of the cohort and its current design. So in Res 2, as I said, you'll be completing your entrepreneurship course and then completing what we refer to as one of your applied business challenges. And this is where you develop and apply skills in creative problem solving. And so that's the residency we just completed this last week, where students were actively engaged throughout the week in a full-time context, completing their applied business challenge 1 and 2. And then once you leave your second residency, you're back to the model of completing 2 courses at a time. And you'll have 4 distance learning sessions in your second year. Included in that is another applied business challenge, which will be a 1-week virtual experience where you'll be working in as teams, either doing a consulting assignment for an actual business or organization or something, again, that is immersive and highly applied, and an opportunity for you to leverage all your learning into the program to that point to cultivate and develop new problem-solving skills, solution development skills. And then ultimately, the program completes with your capstone project, where you are developing a business idea for an existing business or a new venture that you might want to bring into the world. You then pitch your idea and you get feedback from a panel. That would be happening during the residency portion. And then you complete the overall program and your capstone by writing up a formal business plan for the business idea that you've come up with. So there you have it. That's the program overview in a nutshell. And I'm sure that there's probably lots of questions and things that are rolling around, an opportunity to dive into some of those questions that you might have, and Sherry might be able to address some of them as well. But before we get into that, for me, these are the key questions that any potential student in the program should be considering. Is, why do I want to go back to school? So why university or further education, and why now? What is happening in your work and professional or life generally that is saying, you know what, I think education is going to be a formative part of my present and my future, and now is the time to go back to school? You know, what are you seeking to do, become, or accomplish that you think that further education can enable? It could be the fuel to move you further ahead. What's that about? What is it that you're moving towards? That's, I think, very important to consider. And then based on that, why are you interested in the BCom and entrepreneurial management? This is not a generic BCom or a generic business degree. It's got that entrepreneurial management focus, as I spoke to earlier. So what is it about this program, as you understand it, that is attractive to you, that you think could be consequential in terms of moving you closer to what you seek to do, become, or accomplish in the world? And then why you? Why do you think you're the right person for a program such as this? So those are things that I think are really important to be mindful of, and you have the opportunity to explore some of these in your application package, which we'll talk about shortly. So with that, I want to engage in a conversation with Sherry to learn a little bit more about somebody who's just completed the program. Sherry just wrapped up her BCom just a few weeks ago and the last I saw her was during our virtual residency in August. And so Sherry.
Yes.
You're there. Thank you.
Here I am.
There you are, joining us from Whistler. And I'll get you to unpack a little bit about your unique background. So actually, before we even get into why did you come to Royal Roads in the BCom, what do you think is important for anybody viewing this webinar to know about you?
About me. Well, I definitely came back to university later in life, and I had always been experimenting with businesses and being an entrepreneur for many, many years. And it just kind of dawned on me one day that I had been improvising and kind of making up as I went along. And what if I actually knew what I was doing? What could I accomplish? So that was some of the motivation, was like, what if I really found out some of the theories and techniques behind, running and operating a business? So that really got me thinking. And then moving into what drew me to Royal Roads, that up here in Whistler, there's certainly a lot of people who are drawn to higher education, and they're just Royal Roads has an excellent reputation. There's lots of people doing their degrees at the school, so that's really struck me. And my husband actually had went, and he had completed a degree very recently, and he did it online distance, and he just one day just said, oh, he's so happy he went because it rewired his brain. And that for some reason was the little light bulb aha
That was the
final.
trigger.
That was the trigger. And then I was able to participate and observe a couple of these information sessions, and it just really, really felt like it was the right place for me.
And anything about the BCom in particular? Were you considering other potential options, or what was it about the BCom as you understood it that said, you know what, I think this is the program for me?
Yeah, it really was. I was very, very drawn to the school. Being out here at West, I loved the campus, the castle, and then really it was just I looked into it, and then through this information session, similar to what you've just presented, I will back up everything you said was, dead accurate. The way that you've described it is true. So you can really take that stuff to the bank that Ross has told you about it. It's a very innovative program. The whole process itself is very fresh, forward thinking, fast paced. And I was really drawn to the full on sort of immersive, quick pace of it. I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, let's get this done. So that's definitely something that made me go, okay.
So what kind of filter were you applying before you came in, like in terms of the questions or considerations that you were processing? What were you anxious about coming back to school, or what enabled you to make the decision?
I was totally terrified. When I was in high school, I had a career already happening. So I was quite busy with an active career, and had went and done did a business certificate at a college. But other than that, I wasn't drawn to university at that time. But it just kind of came around to that whole, realization, hey, what if I had more knowledge behind, running the businesses that I am? Maybe I should seek that out. And I was totally terrified. I was like, how could I possibly do this? Like, is it for me? I'm not a university student. Like, can I fit this into my life? I was very, very afraid. And I remember writing the entrance exam or the essay for the flexible admission qualifications. And I put so much energy that it was just a very emotional time. I was not sure if I was going to be able to pull it off. And so there was a lot happening. It was definitely a bit of a storm of emotion. But then once it was done and I was on the road, I was so happy. It's definitely a journey.
Would it be fair to say one of the bigger considerations is how you would fit this into what is already a full life? You're an active business owner, you had a growing business, you had lots on your plate, you're a mother. So how were you processing where school would fit? And then talk about how that fits in with what has been some of the most challenging and rewarding parts of the program for you.
Okay. Well, definitely, I think you just have to make room for it. You really need to prioritize it. It by nature, I was quite amazed how much schooling, and I saw that through my husband as well, it just takes priority. You just, as it should, it just becomes something that you're doing and you just need to be committed. So that's definitely something I think you need, the commitment and flexibility in knowing that I'm going to have to move some stuff around, and it's just the way it is. You
have to adjust your schedule, you have to adjust and balance priorities differently than you otherwise would, because we say, for people that might be thinking about like, well, what is kind of the time commitment? And this is highly variable based on what's happening in a given set of courses in a given week, and what your familiarity and interest in the particular material is that you're working through. But we say that, you should plan for up to 20 or so hours a week for your education. Some weeks will be less, some weeks will be more, depending on what's happening, and how much you lean into the experience, because you get out what you put in. Sometimes that's time. It's not only time that will drive what you get out, but it's an important input. And so you can't do that. You can't just add 20 or so hours on top of a life without having to make some adjustments. Fair to say?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah. And definitely one of the things that was the most challenging and the most rewarding was the teamwork. You know, it's really, I remember you speaking so much before I had signed up for the program about, you know, teamwork, like you have to realize you're going to be working in teams. This is the model. You don't know what that means, you know, and that's why I was happy to come today is because yes, you know, the information's there, but what does it mean to
So
live
what
through
does
it?
it mean?
What does
For
it
you, what
mean?
does it mean, or do you think
So
somebody needs to be considering before they apply?
is that there is a portion of the program that you are doing projects alongside 3 to 5 other people. And with that means that you need your life to kind of meld with these folks. Now, I fell in love with my very first cohort group. We still talk to this day. We were, you know, texting on Christmas Day. So you can make some really great bonds. And then other times, you know, it may not be as romantic and beautiful. Um, and but
Such is life.
it's set up really, really well. And you know, you have like professional facilitators that are overseeing, that are always there as a resource, so you're very, very well supported, but you have to deal with it. You have to deal with your teams. And teams is the main word. And I think for a lot of people coming into it, who maybe haven't been in that sort of environment, or like myself at the time, I had a management role in a corporation, and you're not the boss. You have to give up the leadership roles, and to just be a team means that there's no one said leader. And so you kind of come face to face with a lot of, you know, your own personality traits, or things that have been maybe going on for years that, you know, you haven't faced, or you need to learn to work with people that you don't usually, you know, work with. It's not like you're picking your friends and you've selected them. These are folks that you maybe don't know coming into it. So yeah, so it's on one hand, it's super rewarding. I think that's where a lot of the personal growth comes from. And I
Yes.
wouldn't have changed a thing, because I think there's so much benefit.
Well, one of the things I say for people's benefit during one of our first orientation sessions, once you join the program, is that most people come thinking content is king or queen. That's the thing that they need more of, and that's going to be the great enabler in their life. But what you soon learn is the process skills and experiences that you are exposed to in the program is often where the gold is, including things like teamwork. People aren't necessarily coming into the program to develop teamwork skills, but they leave, as you said, having had that as a very formative part of their educational experience. What
True.
else was rewarding or challenging?
Ooh, you know, I think just the actual, like, each accomplishment was really rewarding, like to finish a paper, to finish a course, you know, each step, you know, was quite rewarding. And then to kind of learn, kind of identify new strengths, or reinforce, you know, what am I good at, you know, or to realize, you know, I don't have to be good at everything. That's where a team comes together. And yeah, so that was really empowering to say, okay, this is my strength, and that's okay. I'm not so good at that. And that's going to happen with the courses. I, for one, was really drawn to the entrepreneurial management aspect, because that is the skill set that I was really looking to bolster in my life, as opposed to just commerce, you know, elements. So yeah, everybody kind of brings different things to the table. And that's where I think a lot of the learning happens, is that each student is bringing life skills, especially with this flexible admission model. We have people from so many different backgrounds that you end up learning just as much from your teammates as you
Yeah.
do the teacher or the books or anything like that.
And I talk about, you know, that think about learning happening kind of horizontally and vertically. So traditional model is you learn from the sage on the stage. So you have an instructor who's just kind of based on their expertise, and you consume. And there's a place for that, absolutely. But there's as much learning that happens in terms of the horizontal learning across the members of the cohort. Because again, we have an unusual collection, a non-typical kind of cohort where people are bringing rich work and life experience that can be leveraged. And it also enables us to be able to deliver and deliver the courses and engage you at a starting point that would be very challenging to do in the typical undergraduate business class, where the average age might be 20 or 21 with some work experience. How you engage people in understanding some of the core concepts of this program, the starting point there is very different than with a cohort of people who have many years of work and related experience. What do you think, Sherry, it takes to get some value out of the program, to get a positive return on investment in your time in the BCom, to come out with more than simply a piece of paper, but actually having had it be a formative learning experience? Any thoughts there?
I think being like wanting to be there and being ready for it, take your time to make sure that you have that space where you can really commit, because of it's this fast-paced nature. It's true, all these old sayings, the more you put in, the more you get out. It's absolutely true. It's not really a program you can just skim along and think that you can hand in things. It is, it's experiential. You are participating in things. And so I think I really enjoyed even just the weekly posts. I found I learned more just by processing my thoughts in the weekly forums and getting feedback from other people. So you want to be engaged. So I do think that that's really important. And then again, this flexibility, you take 2 courses at a time, and each time one starts up, you have a different instructor. They're going to have a different format. All of a sudden you have to learn, okay, but then now it's Wednesdays is the things due. And so you just need to really go with the flow and kind of surrender to the process. And I think the more flexible you are, and to just say, okay, this is a fixed menu. This has all been taken care for me. I'm going on a journey, on a crazy ride, and you just, go with it and stay engaged. You kind of can't really check out at all.
Yeah, I think it's about, deciding whether or not you're prepared to be an active participant in your learning rather than being passive. And I would say that, this program, I like to say, I want to attract keeners, people that actually want to get on with important stuff in the world, whatever that looks like. And they see education as a formative part of that, not everything, but a critical component. And they want to be here, as you said, that there's a level of engagement and commitment, and they're not passive. I think those folks that show up in a more passive capacity, that want to be led along rather than actually take ownership for their learning, are the ones that might struggle more.
It's definitely not just a check the boxes type program. And that's what's so beautiful about it. You can't just kind of surf along without really putting in some energy. It will be asked of you.
So in light of that, you were keener, you really leaned into it. So how have you benefited? What have you taken away from your experience that has been meaningful and of value to you personally and professionally?
Wow. I mean, it's hard to measure. I think, just education in general, finishing something like this is super transformative. But I do think it's given me a totally new confidence in how, I go about, carrying myself, how I make decisions within my business. It's pretty fresh that I just finished. But I definitely feel extremely inspired and know that anything's possible. It's just one of those things that, I've come to realize how important in life as a, citizen, critical thinking skills are. And so I am all in for school now, like even for my own children. I'm like, you just need to go and you need to develop critical thinking skills, facing those challenges, learning something new, like learning how to write essays. It's just, once you develop new skill sets, you just really, I can go out and I can learn even more skills. So I definitely feel more confident and inspired.
You're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you're out there in the trenches making a business work. In what ways has the program added value in terms of your role as a business person?
Well, every single course that we did, I directly applied to my business real time, every single one. And so it was reinforcing my business as I went. We're doing human resource management, organizational behavior. I was quickly writing, improving my guide manual. So if you are a business owner, they are skills that you can, immediately apply. I had the benefit of a lot of times you get to choose, what your paper's on or a project or something. So I would always use my own business as the, example.
Lens,
So
yeah.
I was able to incorporate a lot of that in right away. So that was like doubling down. So I'm always looking for ways, to incorporate multiple levels. And at the same time, you're able to take some of those pieces. If you do have a vision and an idea of what you want to do for your capstone, you can kind of plug away through some of those different courses.
Exactly.
And then have some of that content that you're going to be able to use at the end. So you're basically writing your final paper as you go through the program.
Yeah, if you have, again, in your current employment or some other venture that you want to create, you can be using that as a lens in terms of what you're pulling from each of the experiences and finding out ways to apply it. So you're not starting just at the end trying to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, it's kind of like reinventing the wheel. But the program is just designed so beautifully. I loved the whole process. Like I said, I thought it was a wonderful, it's just been completed so nicely. And one of those benefits was the venture challenge, where as a team, you quickly build a business, as in 1 week, and launch it real time and start making real cash over, a 4-week period type thing. And that made me realize, like, wow, you could actually start a business. In fact, I've actually started a business in the last 2 weeks, another one, because I realized that you can do it really fast. And the entire template that you're doing with the team is, in fact, your capstone. So the whole program is setting you up for success. The instructors want you to succeed. The whole formatting is there to make you succeed. You just need to kind of participate, lean into it, be
Surrender
engaged.
to it. Yeah.
Just surrender and go with it.
Go with it.
At the end, you'll be very happy.
The point you mentioned around the opportunity to apply the learning, in your case, to your business, or to come up with an idea that you can bring into existence in the marketplace. Again, for those who aren't the classic entrepreneur or seeking to become that, which is the bulk of the students, the program, that's why I was really emphasizing the entrepreneurialism angle to the program, is that regardless of your work context, there is value that could be gained from every course in the program. There's ways that you could be applying any key concept, principle, or practice that you're learning any given week to whatever work situation you find yourself in. In the case of Sherry, it's about actually growing an actual business, but for many other people, they're inside of an organization as an employee, and there's plenty of opportunity to be applying and practicing the skills of entrepreneurial management so that you can actually be more of a value creator and that much more indispensable with your current work or your future work. What advice would you give, Sherry, to a prospect, people that are on the call today, or anybody that might be viewing this recording in the coming days and weeks? What advice would you give?
Well, further to that note, I will say learning the entrepreneurial mindset, this open, flexible mindset, is highly valuable in any work situation. To be able to go in and deal with your corporate setting with this new mindset is hugely valuable, and it is the way of the future. Everything is kind of moving that way. So I saw a few students who actually were cured of wanting to open a business. They said, "Okay, yeah, I realize that this isn't for me, but all the same value and skill sets are there." As far as advice, so very much. One would be definitely don't, just to stay on top of the work. It's continuous. There is a 1-week break in between, but I found you're just kind of on the wheel. And every single student I knew, you immediately were looking at the next course during that week off. So do know that it's quite full on. I already mentioned the teamwork. Just know that you're going to be kind of facing yourself a bit and kind of learning, personally growing, and be ready for that, and that it can be really beautiful and it's well supported. But that Royal Roads does an amazing job of vetting people and making sure that the right folks, are signed up. But I think just
Build
overall. Go ahead.
I could say, to build on that, I say, if you want to be the captain of your own ship and be accountable to nobody other than yourself, probably not the right program for you, because you're going to have to hold some things more loosely. That co-creative space that you're engaging in others with, and having to work through the challenges and the benefits of coming together on a common cause. If that doesn't appeal to you, even though there's great value in it, and that's an important consideration in terms of deciding to join this program or not. Not the only consideration, but as you said, it's an important one because there may not be full understanding and appreciation of that. And I see Tiffany asked a question around the hours per week. And as I said, roughly we say, plan for up to 20 hours, and that's between the two courses. So not each course, which would add up to like 30 to 40. So in total, in any given week in a typical online term, about 20 hours. Some people will put in less, some people will put in more, and partly has to do with the rhythm and of the course and when particular activities are due, or you'll be engaging in particular activities in a given week, and that will affect the time commitment. But things often take more time than we expect, and so it is going to be a full-on 24 months. But there's almost 3,000 graduates of the program. Many other people have demonstrated that it is doable. And Sherry, again, building a business, growing a business, plus family commitments, you kept it real.
And the one thing that to kind of be the other side of the coin to this full-on immersive, you're getting onto something and it's you're not getting off. I found out that you actually are able to step out of the program when needed. And I actually did. I did not finish the program in 2 years. I have a seasonal business, so it operates only in the summers, and I work 7 days a week when it's on. And I was able to just hit pause, and the most seamless, easy process of saying, hey, guess what? I can't do this right now. The program was able to just simply, sign me out, put me on hold, and then I joined another intake. So I actually joined in with 3 different groups. I think I was extremely shocked at how easy it was, and how the whole program is set up around supporting people who have lives, who have careers. They're extremely understanding. And so I think that's really important to know. It is good to kind of get in there and get it done. But if something comes up, you do have the ability to step out.
Right. You can take a leave of absence. If we do in any given cohort, there'll be a few learners that have life circumstances such that they're not able to engage in the learning to the extent that they want to get value out of it, and decide to take a pause. And then we just look for an opportunity to have them back into a group behind. In your case, twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you made
because of COVID, I was able to finish this summer. I didn't have to.
There you go. Right. Otherwise, you might have had to take a little bit more.
I would probably not be graduating right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Great. So Italia, I think it just asked around the 12-month option. No, we no longer offer the accelerated on-campus 1-year degree completion option in the program. We just concluded the last offering of that just a few weeks ago. So moving forward, the BCom will continue to be offered in its blended online format only. So again, 24 months, 3 residencies, be they virtual or face-to-face, and then online learning in between is the model moving forward. So if you're interested, obviously you're somewhat interested already, but if you're like, hey, I'm now really interested, this seems like it could be a good fit for me, this could help you get your groove on in the world, then this is how you can apply. So we got 2 pathways, and Alana alluded to them earlier. So we got the traditional pathway, kind of the standard admission model, where we're expecting you to have the equivalent of 60 credits. That could have been a diploma, or it could just be open credits to equivalent of 2 years of university or college, with an average of a B, and at least 2 years of full-time work experience. So nobody's in the program without at least 2 years full-time work experience. Most people have many more years of experience, but that is the minimum requirement. So that's the traditional or standard admission pathway. But if that don't have the number of credits, the 60 credits, or you don't have meet the GPA requirement for standard admission, you can apply through our flexible admission or professional pathway model, which is a combination of work experience, professional practice, and academic experience. And 15 university or college credits, you would normally require at least 7 years of full-time work experience, 3 at kind of the supervisory, project lead, or managerial level. Okay, vast majority of students in the BCom program come through the flexible admission model, the professional pathway. They come in with many years of work experience, and we recognize that and enable people to complete their degree in ways that otherwise wouldn't be possible. In many cases, especially for those who are coming through the flexible admission model, there may be a condition attached to your approval, and that will be completing our financial accounting fundamentals course. So if you don't have any accounting, math, or equivalent in your background, then you might be required, or at least strongly recommended, but in many cases required, to complete the equivalent of the financial accounting fundamentals course. The one that we offer is 4 weeks online and many times throughout the year, and or our critical thinking and writing skills course. And that's especially important for those who have been out of university for a long time or don't have any post-secondary experience. You very likely will be asked to complete the academic writing and critical thinking course, which is an 8-week online course. And if these don't work based on timing or other considerations, then reach out and we can have a conversation about potentially another offering that can satisfy the requirement that will be attached to your condition for admission. Take into account that you need to have completed whatever course it is that you're completing for your condition at least 5 weeks prior to the program start. So that's why it's always good to apply sooner rather than later, because then you know what the lay of the land is. And if there's a condition attached, then you know that you're going to have enough runway to complete it before the program starts. So contact Tracy if you have any questions around any of that. Our next intake, so we just started a new cohort in August. They just completed their first virtual residency, a 2-week virtual residency the week before last. And our next intake, so we have 2 intakes a year, one in August and one in March. So our next is March the 15th, and the application deadline for that is this December. So again, if you're thinking that this program is for you, no time like the present to start your application process, because once you're in the system, that's what triggers us to be following up and having a conversation with you about your application. It's an online application process. The fee is $126.28 with GST, and there are key supporting documents that you need to provide. One is, if you've got any post-secondary experience credits, then we're going to want to see the official transcripts from that institution. They should be sent directly to our admissions team. If you receive them first, do not open the envelope. We have to receive it as a sealed envelope. That's what makes it official. You might want to grab one for yourself, a copy for yourself, but we need at least one sealed copy of your transcripts. We want a detailed resume, which means unpacking your life and work experience that you believe is going to be consequential to your time in the program. So rather than a 1 or 2 page brief overview of what you're on about, we want to see a much fuller expression of your work, life, and academic experiences. Another key component is your statement of intent. This is your why. Why are you applying to this program? Why do you want to be in this program? What are you hoping to get out of it? And what are you hoping to be able to give to it? Because it's a two-way street. And I review those statements. And so they're important. And then finally, 2 letters of reference. Typically, people will provide professional letters of reference because it may be several years since they were in university, or they don't have an existing relationship with a former instructor, which is fine. So it could be 1 academic and 1 professional, or a couple professional. 2 academic is probably, I would prefer to see a balance. I'd like to see at least 1 of those references being from somebody who knows your work and knows how you show up in that context. Okay. Anything you want to add to that, Alana?
I think you covered it, Ross.
Okay, all right. Financial aid. So I know there's already questions around, the cost of the program and what supports are available. It always is important to look at what your options are. So we do have folks that can help you figure out how you might qualify for financial aid and rewards. We have a website, we have an email address, and a phone number that you can reach out to and talk to the people in financial aid. Okay. a lot of resources go unutilized. And so take advantage of the many resources that are available and that you might qualify for. And then Tracy and her team of enrollment advisors are there to answer any questions and help guide you through the process. So if you already have that relationship with Tracy, she's the one to reach out to. Otherwise, there is the generic email address and phone number that you can contact. And if you're an international student, then you can reach out to our international enrollment team. Okay. So we're at the end. We've got a few minutes before we break. So if there are outstanding questions, things that you want to know more of, because undoubtedly, if you want to know more of something or have a question, other people who are either on the call now or will be viewing this recording will have a similar question on their mind or consideration that they want to know more about. So feel free.
I'll just note, I see Tiffany's asking a question regarding tuition. On the main program page, it will have the full tuition amount, but keeping in mind that that's actually broken by term. So you're basically paying by credit.
Increments,
Yeah,
installments.
Exactly. Yeah. So actually, if you reach out to financial aid, they can give you a tuition schedule, so you can kind of wrap your head around what that's going to look like over the course of the program.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, the 17,000 plus change is not due at the start of the program. That's the total amount that will be due over the 24 months that you're in the program, but you'll be doing those in smaller payment increments. Yeah, and you can get a schedule of that. Other comments or questions? Maybe there's some follow-up questions for Sherry. What else is on your mind? What else would be helpful for you to know?
I know somebody had asked, and you had mentioned this, but I'll bring it back because I might have not been totally accurate. Is somebody was asking the approximate number of hours per week to expect. I said 15 to 20. You might have said something else. So
I said 15 to 20. You just said per course, and I'm saying that's per week in an online term split between two courses.
Split between two courses. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. In graduate programs, often students might be taking only one course a term, or they're delivered in a different format. But in the context of the BCom, in any given week, outside of residency time, which is a full-time thing. So consider that when you see the residencies scheduled, that is not something you'll be engaging in while you're working. Even in virtual format, you need to be fully present and accounted for during those blocks of time. Otherwise, it is an asynchronous delivery, so there are no scheduled class time each week. Most instructors, as I said, offer a live hour or more each week and invite the students to show up that are able to show up live, and those that can't show up live simply are required to view the recording on their own time. But it is an asynchronous program that allows you to figure out when you engage in your work best throughout the week. And then in terms of the teamwork requirement, you sort those pieces out with your team in terms of how you're going to actually collaboratively do the work. And if that means having to get on a call occasionally, then you're just going to figure that out amongst the team members. But in any given typical week, it's about 15 to 20 hours. Go ahead, Sherry.
Yeah. So with the teamwork, you just kind of hammer it out with your group of 3 to 4 and pick a time. But there will be a commitment sometimes, and it goes kind of in phases where every week you have to meet with your team to work on a collective project. Right. And of course, I found in the beginning I was putting a lot of hours in on my final papers because it was just new to me. But then eventually, it did settle down to be kind of, you get into your groove.
Yeah, exactly. You spend the first few weeks, I think, figuring out how you learn best. And that's part of the learning. That's part of the value that education offers. And these are life skills because, as you said, Sherry, the things that you've now been exposed to, critical thinking skills, managing time and commitments, working with others, these are life skills that are paying dividends.
Totally.
Absolutely. I want to mention one more thing because I do think it's I don't know if it's come up so far, but I do think it's one of the things that's worth mentioning is Royal Roads does have a special approach to education, and there is space within the program where there is space to kind of reflect on yourself and look at maybe blocks to success within. You should actually consider tuning in. I know there's a few of you here today, and we'll have many people watching the recording, but our Insights for Action webinar series, we just did one last week with Ross and Patrick O'Neill that was really amazing. I'm happy to send the recording out to anybody who's interested. And it really does go into the fact think that, of course, getting skills is so important to be successful, but also really finding out what your capabilities are and maybe the things that are holding you back from expressing your strengths is something that is integrated, and it's a really special experience that propels people forward.
Yeah, and there is a lot of self-work. There's no question, because I continue to advise business folk, senior executives and their teams, and very few people reach out to me for advice and counsel based on a lack of competence or technical ability of folks. It's usually a behavioral or attitudinal orientation that is getting in the way. We create space in the program to kind of get at some of that stuff, because I truly believe if you're thinking and behaving the same way at the end of the program as you were at the beginning, you're not going to get any different result. Because that's the stuff that differentiates you. That's the stuff that adds value, not simply more knowledge. It's what you do with that knowledge. And if you haven't figured out how to constructively, and that's not what you pay attention to in the program is not going to generate a return on investment for you. So that's something I think is really important for students to kind of get real with it as well before they start the program. There will be times to be reflecting on things and figuring out how this is applied to me as an individual. What's important to me? Examining things like values and beliefs and mindsets. That's an important element that finds its way throughout the program. It's a common thread. And Ruth, you asked around on the teamwork piece around time zones. Again, we got people spread right across the country. They're not simply in BC in the same time zone. We got learners right across the country and overseas. You just figure it out amongst your team members about if there needs to be a need to come and actively do a synchronous session together, a live session as a team. You just schedule that. You figure out what's going to work for folks.
Absolutely. I did a BCom course in my undergrad program. I did an interdisciplinary program, so I popped in and out of different program areas, but I was living in Portugal at the time, and I would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and do my team meeting. You just make it work. I mean, that's not ideal. But
and here's the thing: if you're not prepared to be flexible and make things work, don't apply. No, seriously, it's going to be a rough hoe. Like it's got to be. You got to see the value, or at least be open to seeing the value of what it is that we're talking about. Because if you come in close and kind of say, no, it's got to adjust to me, I don't adjust to it, this is going to be a bumpy road for 24 months. And we just finished a residency last week where students were expected to be live throughout the week at various times throughout the day. And we had a student who was based in Croatia. And he just made it work. We worked with his schedule, and he worked with the schedule of the residency so that he could actually show up and be part of the formative collective learning that was taking place. So time zones are not a hindrance. It's just a practical piece that all of us are having to deal with right now in this virtual work context, which is not going to be going away for any time in the future. And I will say on that, for those who are interested in the March intake, we will be offering the residency in virtual context. That we will not be in a place to be in person. So plan on the first res, hopefully not the second or the third. We'll hopefully be in a position where we can openly welcome everybody back to campus. But for the March intake, I think that will be premature to have that as a requirement. So we will be offering the March residency and program start virtually. We're finding that people are actually valuing that because they're not in a place yet that they feel comfortable traveling, and they got other commitments that they're managing at this time. To be able to take themselves away completely actually is not a great fit for them right now. So people are really valuing the virtual delivery of our residencies, and we're rethinking about how that's done so it's not an onerous, burdensome experience for people. It meets people with where they're at and moves them forward. I know we're beyond time. So if there's any last comments or questions before we break. Otherwise, I really want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you for the questions and comments you've been making. And a big shout out to Sherry. Thank you so much for putting the time aside this afternoon to join us, share your BCom experience. I think that's going to be hugely helpful for the people that are joining us live, as well as those who will be viewing the recording. So thank you so much, Sherry. It's been a pleasure. And I wish you nothing but the best from this point forward. I know we'll be staying in touch.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you to everyone. And if we can support you in any way, please reach out. We are here to help you through this process.
Thanks again, everyone. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you.